phone that's. Yeah, I get it pushed to see when I whether it's me or not. Hello?
Yeah, it's the specific application. Yeah, Microsoft Authenticator. So, if you don't have it, it's an easy setup anyways. Access to provisioning can also help us with that too along the way, but it's a fairly simple process that we can get you set up with. And and that's all you need to really place orders remotely.
So potentially my MOA could do that as part of
your MOA can't do it. It would have to be a provider that does it. So it is, yeah. So it would be a bit of a different workflow because your MOA can't do that for sure.
Okay, so I would have to click that from my EMR. Okay, so I couldn't download it directly from my EMR. Okay.
It's a bit of a different workflow now, yeah.
So this is a make work project. Okay, all right. Well, that's.
And if you don't want to do it in advance, if you want to do it on the same day, as long as you get there ahead of time, because what's.
Oh, but that's just kind of the same day as procedures at 8 o'clock in the morning. No,
I know. So that's why I'm saying it is difficult. Some providers get in there early and then just do it all for the same day so that they don't do it remotely in advance. But the downside is if you're not there super early, the nurses are waiting because they can't start without it. So it's kind of a.
That seems like a bad way to do things.
It is, yeah. But yeah, so it's definitely better if you have time in advance to do it, like Jeremy said. That's the way you can.
Well, I mean, sometimes we know these cases 2 to 4 weeks in advance, and
exactly, yeah.
To do it at 3 o'clock in the afternoon as opposed to 7 o'clock in the morning, it just seems.
I hear you. It's definitely better.
Really stupid to think about going in the morning just for a morning procedure just to get the orders. I mean, that's just.
For sure. Yeah, that makes sense.
Okay.
Okay. So the demo portion is completed. So we have some questions for the providers. Okay. Okay, so for urgent add-on cases, what is the mode of communication between ED ICU and endoscopy? We'll start with the Dr. Lee first.
I guess the question is, what's the difference in communicating if you need to do it stat, like if you do it overnight, with the difference between if it can wait, we could do that order going forward. But if it's stat, do you?
Right. I mean, I don't know how we can kind of anticipate this because if it is stat, I guess we can put in the same sort of orders and then have the nurse kind of manage it. But it's a bit different because when we do ED and ICU cases, a lot of times the medications, like the sedation, is being managed by the ED or ICU nurse rather than the endoscopy nurse. I mean, perhaps it's still needed to be recorded and that it's ordered by a physician, or maybe it still is required, but like the request for endoscopy, all those things, overnight, there's no clerk kind of documenting that anyway. So it will just be to leave a paper trail, but probably not completely necessary if it is an urgent case that needs to be done.
When you do it in the ED and ICU, and the ED or the ICU staff are actually doing the administration of the medications, are you placing those orders, or is that on the ED and ICU physician to place those sedation orders?
I usually provide like orders for them, and then they do the administration and documentation.
Okay, so you still need to do the ordering. Okay.
Correct, yeah.
But then you're not calling in, do you still call in a GI nurse to come for these cases, or do you just work with the nurses that work on the specific areas?
It depends. We have now a system to bring in nurses, but if it's super urgent and depending on what the time of the day is, sometimes we'll just go on our own and do it ourselves.
Okay, and are you doing that in the ED, ICU? Do you also do it in the endo-bronch suite? Like, will you bring a patient down there in the middle?
No, not on my own.
Okay.
If I do have 2 extra nurses, then we'll be bringing them down to the ED, to the ambulatory care.
Got it.
Yeah.
Okay, do you ever do it in the OR?
Very, very infrequently.
Yep, that is perfect. And you must have a phone call or a way to get that nurse to come in.
Correct.
That is outside of the system to do.
Yeah.
that. Okay. So I think that covers
Okay,
that. And then
thank
for the
you.
non-urgent ones, if you place the order, are you going to phone them the next day to double check that they've scheduled them the next day for those non-urgent add-on cases?
Yeah, usually I leave like a voicemail or call the clerk directly to let them know. That's how the
Okay.
system works now. So essentially whatever prints will be just another kind of redundant system to do it, but just leaves a paper trail, which is nice.
Yeah, perfect.
Mhm. Okay. And I just have a question here. Do you arrange the post-op and mark P after the procedure, or is that up to the requesting physician?
As in like who takes care of the disposition of the patient afterwards?
Yeah, correct.
It's usually communicated, but we don't order things,
Okay,
or we don't put orders per se, because if it's coming under me and I'm admitting the patient, I would be doing the orders anyways. But if it's
for sure.
not, then I would just, bring them back or like send them back to ER with
Okay,
instructions that they can go home or that they should be admitted under another service.
okay, got it. So you do arrange. Okay,
Yeah,
thank
so it
you.
is communicated in one form or another.
Okay, perfect. Great. Do you provide a physician letter at patient discharge? This is for outpatient.
For outpatients, everyone
Yeah.
gets a written kind of documentation regarding their findings and any kind of follow-up that's needed.
Okay, but is there like a official letter or it's like a
It's
discharge summary, an informal one?
yeah, it's like a discharge summary that's
Okay.
informal, like but yeah, just has all the
Okay,
information needed. Yeah.
sure. Okay, and do you provide any prescription?
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
Do you do any narcotic prescriptions or is it just regular prescription?
I rarely prescribe narcotics.
It's just a separate printer
Okay.
that we could request if you do that regularly.
I mean, it'd be nice to have the option, but I don't regularly do it. The time that I would probably use it, and if I don't have to carry around a triplicate, that'd be nice, is for inpatients that are getting discharged, but not routinely for outpatients.
Got it. Okay.
Okay. Yep, and just the same question for Dr. Lau. Whether there's any difference.
Mode of communication, I do very few in the the ER. And usually, it's a written order that I give for narcotics and things like that. I can
Okay,
do the RT, and it's usually the ER nurse or the ICU nurse if I'm going to do a procedure in either one.
mhm,
Workflow sedation, I write the order, I give the sedation just as a matter of consequence, just to see what I need, the minimum amount I need.
okay,
And then for the ED patients, post MRP, I'm not the MRP on procedures. They're usually I'm consulting on them, so they're either the emerge patient or admitted patients out of the hospice or GIM.
mhm.
Not provide a physician letter. I do a dictation note right at procedure time, so the providers get.
Okay, so you do a official physician letter at discharge.
Well, I don't
Okay.
write a letter that to give the patient. I do a procedural note
Okay,
to the referring physician and or the family physician.
I see. Okay,
Prescriptions, rarely will I give antibiotics. I do not prescribe narcotics. I don't have.
okay,
I really don't want them. So it's
okay. Thank you.
So then you do the after hours in ED and ICU. It sounds like less in ED, but you use the ED and ICU nurses. You don't bring in bronch nurses to help you in those places.
Alfred.
Okay.
I mean, there's no specialized nursing aside from sedation.
Got it. And you're giving the sedation, and then the RTs aren't giving any medications for you, right?
Yeah, the RTs are helping me, control the scope, biopsy, brush.
Got
And so the nurses are basically to help out with if I need intravenous, if I need meds, extra meds pulled. And the
Got
patient enough, or helping with airway support, and but usually we're in the airways, so we've got control of the airway to some respect. So
Perfect. And you're not bringing anesthesia in, right? An anesthesiologist.
No.
Okay. So that's good. And then I guess the same workflow. You probably phone to arrange this currently.
what's
A
that?
phone call. Is it a phone call to arrange this currently?
Or phone order, or if I'm in the emerge, I'll write the order. I mean, if there's.
Yeah, I mean, just to arrange this procedure. It's like probably all coordinated on the phone right now, right?
So it's pretty easy.
Perfect. And you're not bringing these patients down to the Bronx suite after hours and doing them in the Bronx suite. You're kind of
No,
just doing it at the bedside.
absolutely not.
Okay, perfect.
No, I don't think there's I don't know. I don't think there's a capacity, or there's a will, or there's a willing to wait that long for.
Yeah, we just want to double check that we're not
No, I got better.
missing any workflows.
No, I mean, basically opening the Bronx suite would slow me down by an appreciable length of time.
Okay. And then do you follow the same workflow if you see someone overnight that can wait to the next day, that would the order and a phone call suffice? To
If I'm physically there and I see them, I'll just write the order. I mean, that's the.
Yeah.
When you say I see the patient, if I physically see the patient, I will write the order there. It's not.
yeah, I just mean to get it scheduled for the next day. It would probably be okay that you if they have to wait, or if they can wait for the next day, you see the patient that can wait, you can place the order to request it so the clerk can book it the next day, and then
Yeah, well, when you say book it, I mean, ambulatory care is a challenge to actually book right in this for an urgent case.
okay,
Generally, I only have 3 ambulatory care slots a week that are dedicated to me. So if I choose to, cannibalize one of my slots for pre-existing, I will do that sort of the morning of.
okay. So are you bumping someone then to put this?
Yeah, because the emerge slate in ambulatory care is one of those things that I wouldn't say it doesn't exist, but it's just for me to get a patient in is almost too much work.
Okay. So I'm not sure for your case in particular if it would be any beneficial to place the request for bronchoscopy, because it sounds more complex because you're actually bumping a patient, that it still requires some sort of communication to figure out what you're doing with that slate, it sounds like.
Communication. It isn't just tell the unit clerk to book me a space. It's not.
Got it.
I mean, there isn't a space often, so that's.
You don't have flex time
I
on
don't
your
have-
slate for add-ons. Okay.
It's not an easy request, and I got better things to do than to beg for flex time.
Got it.
Usually I need to wait for an RT, 6 hours to wait for them. And if I actually, and then I also have to get an RT in at that time.
Got it.
And by the time I get that done, I'm much better trying to beg for the ICU to loan me a bed for 30 minutes, because it's literally a 5-minute procedure.
Yeah, that totally makes sense.
So ambulatory care doesn't even come in the equation because for my emergent kind of stuff, because
It's easier to do at bedside.
I will call the staff support coordinator and
Got it.
as far as actual getting an emergent bronch, because I wouldn't say it never happens at ambulatory care, but it's so rare.
Got it. Yeah, that totally makes sense. And is that the same thing for you, Dr. Lee, for the GI? Do you have add-on extra time at the end of the day to add on these these emergent cases, or are you kind of?
Yeah, we have dedicated time slots every day.
Oh, okay. So you're one of the lucky ones. I get the
Yes.
extra. Okay, so that workflow then would work for you.
Yeah.
Perfect. Thanks, Tommy.
Thank you. I think that's all our questions.
Did you ask about the PPO that we had? There was that.
Oh, yes.
Oh.
Moving on, this one, next one. Do you still use this PPOs?
No.
No?
Simple
Okay.
answer, no. Yeah.
Okay, perfect. All right. Let's see, anything else?
Is there anything else you guys do around the hospital or in the endo bronch suite that we haven't shown you?
Hmm. Are the pre-existing PPOs or power plans from other hospitals also available to us?
It depends how they build it. So they have enterprise power plans that are
Mhm.
facility flex to multiple sites. And then they
Okay.
sometimes have power plans that for some reason, they don't facility flex on to your
Okay,
site because either it's not appropriate or they don't want people accidentally picking it.
I see.
So it depends. Is there certain ones that you're thinking about that you were wanting to leverage?
Yeah, there's one that I helped plan when I was a trainee for, I think, VGH, and I believe it's also available at St. Paul's, is essentially like workup for cirrhosis, because there's a number of different investigations that it will be very tedious to manually kind of search up every single time. So that had been approved. It's been live for some time, but I don't know if that is facility locked or if it's available.
Doris,
kind of
do you
all
know
throughout.
of a power plan for cirrhosis by chance that we could look to see? And if not, we can follow up on that one and
Okay,
see about that power plan. Do
yeah,
guys
there you
know
go. Okay, yeah.
Okay.
Is that facility locked or is that available?
What facility? And you're under VGH right now, so we'd have to
I-
switch
Oh,
facilities
okay.
real quick.
Yeah, I
And
know. I don't think I have.
you know what we'll do? Because this is a test
Richmond
environment
one.
anyways,
Yeah.
and this is not always 100% accurate of what we're going
Mhm.
to see. So let's just follow up on that one.
Sure.
And just if that's a requirement for you to have it at Richmond, we'll just follow up to
Yeah.
ask
Sure,
that that's available.
that sounds good. Thank
I
you.
quickly took a look. It looks like it's available at all facilities.
Perfect.
Oh, thank
Right.
you.
Thank you.
Okay. Anything else? Okay, so then the next steps is we're gonna do a validation session for the nursing and scheduling pieces. We can invite you guys as optional, but it sounds like from a provider perspective, you're validated. So if you want to come and see the nursing and scheduling end-to-end workflow, you'd be welcome to, but it's not going to change your workflow. Okay. And if you think of anything else, Tommy will be sending out minutes. So you can reach out to Tommy if you think of other workflows that come out of the blue that you now remember that you do, and we can make sure we account for those.
Okay, thank you. So are you saying the 8th session is more optional for physicians?
Mhm.
Okay. Gotcha.
Yes. Yeah, your invite should have said optional, but if not, we can clarify that. But for sure, if you have nothing else to add for this, we're going to be heavily going over nursing and scheduling. So we're not
Gotcha.
going to show you any net new stuff for the provider. This stuff works
Okay.
for you.
Great, thank you.
Yeah, and I'll follow up on the TB, the fungal culture, the PCR orders. Yeah.
Yeah, we can send that by email.
Yeah.
So my apologies for the extra hour that was allocated. That miscommunication on our part. That's my apologies about that piece.
Tommy, do you mind CCing me on the TB and fungal culture stuff as well? Because we do use that, not as frequently as Dr. Lau would, but we do use it for our patients with biopsies as well.
For sure.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, if there's no other further questions or comments, we can end the session.
Okay, thank you, everybody.
Thanks all.